Good afternoon and welcome to the Comm's Regional Council where we are preparing for the next update for COVID-19. This is the press center which was established so as to give you news about what's happening on a daily basis. This is for the event that will take place at 1600, and this time it will be the Minister of Finance, Shimi, who's expected to give us a rundown of how exactly he wants to introduce the emergency grants for Namibians that have been affected by the COVID-19 lockout, which we are currently under. So we'll give you a bit of background to it, and then later on, as from 1600, you can expect to see the Minister, who will then hopefully give us a proper explanation of how this will go forward. Good afternoon and welcome to the Comm's Regional Council where we are preparing for the next update for COVID-19. This is the press center which was established so as to give you news about what's happening on a daily basis. This is for the event that will take place at 1600, and this time it will be the Minister of Finance, Shimi, who's expected to give us a rundown of how exactly he wants to introduce the emergency grants for Namibians that have been affected by the COVID-19 lockout, which we are currently under. So we'll give you a bit of background to it, and then later on, as from 1600, you can expect to see the Minister, who will then hopefully give us a proper explanation of how this will go forward.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. When we were here last week Friday, we informed you that we were directed by the President, cognizant of the fact that the COVID-19 is causing economic hardship to our households, people who are likely to lose their jobs, people who are likely to lose their income because they can no longer engage in the economic activities that they used to engage before. We need to develop a package that is going to give relief to those people, to the households and to businesses. And when we inform you that we have two goals, one is to, maybe three. One, of course, is to make resources available to the health sector, to the Ministry of Health, to equip them properly with resources so that we can fight the spreading and the transmission of COVID-19. So that's one part of the package. The second part of the package is to provide support to the households and employees that are losing income because of COVID-19. So in other words, to protect income and jobs. The third part of the package is to protect businesses from closing down, because we need these businesses to keep the economy going so that when we recover from COVID-19, we are well positioned to grow the economy at a higher level. So these are the three components of the package that we were directed to work on by His Excellency, Comrade President. The total package that we are going to present amounts to 8.1 billion Namibia dollar. We are aware that people who earn their income from the informal settlement are no longer able to earn that income. Some used to sell tomatoes in the street corners, some used to be in the open markets, but they are no longer able to engage in these activities because of COVID-19. So we need to support the livelihoods of those people. So we are proposing an emergency income grant. Now, how this is going to work is, if you are between 18 and 60 years of age, you qualify, provided that you don't benefit from any social grant. So, and therefore, if you, for instance, you get any sort of grant, you don't qualify, you are not a student and therefore benefiting from a loan scheme or bursary scheme, because you are studying, you didn't have an income, so you cannot claim that you have lost the income. So all these exclusion methods will be used to be able to target the right people that we need to target, because we don't want this scheme to be abused. So, and this scheme is based on the poverty line, which says that a person needs 250 Namibia dollar to be able to survive. So that's per week. So if we look at the period where we are going to restrict economic activities, 21 days, that will amount to 750 Namibia dollar per person. So that's how that package is going to work. And our message to those who are going to benefit from this package is that we don't want this package to be abused. It should only be accessed by those who really lost their income. And we also want to convey the message to those who have got intentions to abuse it, that if you claim and benefit from this package, from this grant, you are also giving us permission to look into your bank accounts, look at the turnover or the flow of the money in that account. If we believe that, and if we determine that you actually earn a bigger income that puts you in the tax net, we will put you in the tax net thereafter. And therefore, this package is for those who don't pay tax because they are below the tax threshold. But if we discover that you have claimed and you're supposed to be in the tax threshold, this gives us a good opportunity to put you in the tax threshold. So our caution is that be careful. You must really claim only when you believe that you deserve to claim. So that's one package for the households. The other package for the household, and this is really meant for people who are going to have reduced income, because when we talk to businesses, they are telling us that we may not be able to support our employees to the full extent. We may not be able to give them full salaries as before. We may be paying them 70% of their salaries. We may be paying them 80% of their salaries. We are proposing that because people are going to lose income, they should be allowed to supplement their cash flow with loans. So government is therefore saying that we will be able, if you are in that situation, we'll be able to allow you to go to your commercial bank, borrow money, which is 1/12, in other words, 1 month of your previous pay that you have paid to government, because you need to be in good standing with government to be able to benefit from government schemes. So you are able to go to your bank and raise that cash flow. Government is going to guarantee you. But we want responsible borrowing. You should be able to pay back the money. So that's a second package for the household. Expensive one. Sorry that I'm jumping. I need to go back there. The income grant is going to cost government about 562 million Namibia dollar. So you can see it's quite a sizable amount, and therefore we don't want that to be abused. For the wage subsidy, that is going to cost government about 400 million Namibia dollar. Again, it should not be abused. Only people that really deserve to qualify should benefit from that. And we are going to put mechanisms in place to ensure that it is not abused. On top of that, we are also committing that we are going to accelerate all the money that government owes private sector. That is in the form of VAT that needs to be refunded as soon as possible. We have had a long backlog of VAT payments that need to be paid. We are committing that we are going to accelerate this process so that all the outstanding VATs are paid. And the idea is to make sure that there's enough cash flowing into the economy so that businesses can support themselves with the money that was owed to them by government. In addition, we are also committing that we are going to pay invoices in a faster way so that the wheels of the economy can continue to function. Cash flow is pumped into the economy so that businesses are kept alive and they're able to support their activities and their employees. We are also proposing a loan scheme of of about 500 million Namibian dollar. Now, this loan scheme is mainly for SMEs and all the non-agricultural activities, because I'm saying non-agricultural activities because we have a scheme for agriculture. So this scheme is going to be rolled out by the Development Bank of Namibia, and the government will support the Development Bank of Namibia by guaranteeing that loan scheme. So it's to the tune of about 500 million Namibian dollar. For agriculture, it's the same scheme, which is going to be administered by Agribank, but to the tune of 200 million Namibian dollar. Again, government will be the underwriter of that scheme. In other words, government will guarantee that. We are also in discussion with Development Bank of Namibia and Agribank to see whether they can provide relief in a form of a repayment holiday, suspension of repayments for a period of time, maybe 6 months, while we are trying to manage and mitigate the effect of these difficulties. But these are still discussions that are underway. They have not been concluded yet. You are aware that other financial institutions have already, as part of the announcement that was made by the Bank of Namibia, financial institutions have already looked into the renegotiation of repayments, repayment holiday, the suspension of interest for this period of time. So we would want our financial institution, government-owned financial institutions, also to consider doing the same. With businesses, we also have a scheme similar to households where business can borrow, again, 1 month of their previous tax that they have paid to government. Again, the idea is to help them to mitigate their cash flow impact. This loan will be guaranteed by government, but it will be administered by commercial banks. So in other words, the financial resources will come from financial institutions, but it will be guaranteed by government, and therefore it becomes a contingent liability for government. So it has got government support. So this, in essence, is the total package that I have described before of about 8.1 billion. The amount I have not talked about, remember I talked about 3 components. The amount I have not talked about is the budget that is provided to the Ministry of Health to fight COVID-19. We are making a budgetary provision of 1.1 billion to allow the Ministry of Health to buy equipments, protective gear, and all the necessities that they need to be able to effectively fight the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is, in summary, what we are proposing. This is for the first phase of the emergency period. We may come back. We hope that the emergency period is going to be shorter so that we don't have to continue providing support, because as you can tell, as you can see, this is expensive. And therefore, we need to utilize this money in a prudent way. We need to use this money sparingly.
amount of understanding and also for cooperation in our efforts. And I would like to also thank everybody who is really ready to make contribution, positive contribution to the fight of COVID-19. And I would like again to stress that the more we cooperate together, the more we can defeat COVID-19 and the more we can return back to normality.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. DPM.
Thank you very much. Starting as a Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, I want to emphasize the point that it's our responsibility to ensure the welfare of our people abroad. And we are asking them to cooperate with us and to be in touch with our missions abroad. In the audience, I have officials, and I want them to distribute the list of the conduct of our missions, the emergency numbers. They are listed there, so that we can publish it as widely as possible in our own social medias, so that our citizens, they know whom to contact when they are outside. Then now, talking as a Deputy Prime Minister on the office of the Prime Minister, is to thank all of you for the support that you are giving to the management of the COVID-19. Those who are doing it in kind, and those who are doing it in cash, and those who are providing the services. We are talking about our nurses, our doctors, our social workers, our people in uniform. You are doing a commendable job. It's not an easy time. It's not an easy time, we emphasize. And we really want the cooperation of each and everyone, because there will be no winner, there will be no loser. We are going to win together, we are going to lose together. And let us help our people, particularly those in informal settlement, those who have lost their income because the business they were doing have closed it down. They are now in our hands to share the little we have, and then while maintaining all the protocols that are put down. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DPM and Minister of Mirko. That is all the time we had today, viewers.
The World Health Organization, our position on that matter is very clear. And we were just in the process to issue that statement. It's very short, and I can read it to you now.
Yes, DPM.
We are saying that the government of the Republic of Namibia has noted with concern several voices raising in unfounded and disprogramming criticism of the Director General of the World Health Organization. In condemning this criticism, the government of the Republic of Namibia wished to voice its support for Dr. Tedros and encourage with gratitude the notable achievement and remarkable leadership he has shown in the health sector since he assumed this position in 2017, particularly in the area of health emergency. The government of the Republic of Namibia wishes to call on stakeholders to adopt a spirit of solidarity in these trying times, as well as we battle with the same enemy, the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is our position as a country. We support Dr. Tedros. He is doing a commendable job in this very difficult time. And this is not the time of blaming, it's the time of finding solutions if we are really having to win over the COVID-19.
ratio. From the public health point of view, there is a measure which we call an indicator, which we consider when it comes to infectious disease. That we look at the basic reproduction ratio, which is really a measure to indicate if you have one case, how many cases are being generated by that particular index case. In other words, if you have got one person, what is the likelihood of that person of how many the numbers to be propagated in that respect. Now there is that measure indicate when it is above 1, it means that the propagation is still continuing, and then you are likely, it means that the epidemic is or the outbreak is still continuing. You would want to reach a stage where one case would not give rise to another case, which will then mean that you are about to defeat the outbreak. So those are the indicators we look from the public point of view to determine the course of action.
Today we're going to talk all things money and finance, as we are here to launch we're here with the Minister of Finance to launch the emergency income grant under the economic stimulus and relief package for COVID-19. Therefore, before we do that, we always have a health update, and I would like to call Mr. Boniface Makumbi, who is the Acting Chief Operations Officer, to tell us about the operations of the NIP with regards to its testing capacity. Mr. Boniface, you may take the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm from NIP, the Namibia Institute of Pathology. Our function is a diagnostic function, where our role is to diagnose COVID-19 and also do the monitoring of the disease. We are so far having the capacity to be testing all the tests that we receive within the country and without leaving any backlog. So far, we are testing under 50 tests per day. Our capacity per one run, we are able to run about 96 tests in one run. So far, we haven't reached that maximum yet. We are also ready for scale-up. In case the testing increases, the test volume increases, we are ready for scale-up. Not only in Windhoek, we are ready to scale up even at regional hospitals into our regional labs. At the moment, we are in preparation for that scale-up, meaning we are also going to even improve on the current methods which we are using, which is semi-automated. We are moving into a more automated testing methods, of which some of the platforms and solutions we have already in our lab, which means these are able to do the tests much faster, improve turnaround times. At the moment, our turnaround times is around maximum 2 days. This includes samples which comes from outside Windhoek, so that as they travel from collection to giving out results, it's about 48 hours or 2 days. So this is how we are doing it at the moment. And in terms of capacity of personnel, we are also scaling up to be able to meet any sudden increase in the test volumes. In short, that is the brief.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makumbi, for that. Thank you. We now invite the Minister of Finance, Honorable Ipumbushimi, to then launch this emergency income grant under the economic stimulus and relief package for COVID-19. Honorable, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies, Honorable Theophilus. Honorable Governor of the Commerce Region, thank you for hosting us here. Members of the media, thank you for being here to transmit this message to the rest of Namibians. I'm here with my colleagues. The ED of Finance is here, and Mr. Penda Ithindi, who is a senior advisor in the Ministry of Finance, and a number of my colleagues are also here with us to answer your questions. You may recall that a few weeks ago, we announced that we were directed by His Excellency the President that we need to develop an economic response package to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. And you may recall, some of you who were at the media conference, that we told you that we were given 3 directives or 3 goals. One is to protect lives. In other words, make resources available to the Ministry of Health to ensure that they have all the equipment that they need, they have the medicines that they need to save the lives of Namibians. So on the 1st of April, we announced an economic package that has addressed that part. In other words, we made a budgetary provision of 1.1 billion towards the health sector to procure the necessities they need to fight and combat COVID-19. The second goal we were given was to protect livelihoods. So no Namibians should go hungry because they have lost a livelihood because of the restriction that we have introduced as a country to limit the transmission of COVID-19. We also told you that we have responded to that call of the President, and we are proposing, that time we were proposing to introduce an emergency income grant. And in a little while, I will talk more in details about this grant, because that's what we are launching today. We also then told you that the third goal was to protect jobs. So remember, protect lives, protect livelihoods, and protect jobs. We also introduced a number of measures that are going to help companies to meet their cash flow needs through commercial banks. We also announced measures where individuals who have lost their income could go to banks and borrow from banks. But specifically, we also propose a wage subsidy for people who have lost income, who have lost their jobs in sectors that were adversely affected by COVID-19, particularly tourism and construction. But today we're not talking about all those. Today we are talking about launching what we call the emergency income grant. Now the emergency income grant is meant for people who have lost their livelihood in the informal sector. So you may be asking yourself, who are those people? So, and therefore, who qualifies for the emergency income grant? So like I said before, people who have lost their livelihoods, if you were selling somewhere in the informal market, along the street corner, now you cannot sell anymore, you qualify to receive this grant, provided you meet the criteria that I'm going to mention briefly. Or you are unemployed, you don't have any livelihood, but because of the restrictions that we have introduced to combat and limit the transmission of COVID-19, we have negatively affected your livelihood. So you didn't have a job before, the situation has become worse for you because of the restrictions that we have introduced as a country to limit and combat COVID-19. So those are the people who qualify. Who doesn't qualify? The scheme is meant for people who are between the age of 18 and 59. So if you are over 60, over 59, it means in somehow you qualify for a pension. So you don't qualify. If you are below 18, it means you didn't really have, you were not working. You didn't have an income coming from your own sources. You were being supported because you are still a child. So you don't qualify. So in other words, people who are who are below 18 don't qualify. People who are 60 and above don't qualify. Who else doesn't qualify? If you benefit from any social grant, it means you have some source of livelihood. You have some source of income. And therefore, if you get a pension, old age pension, you have an income. That income will continue to be there. If you receive any social grant from government, it means you have some source of income. So that income will not disappear, it will be there. So you are excluded. It also means if you are a student, or if you are a student still, you did not lose any livelihood. Maybe the person who's supposed to have lost some livelihood, and that's the person we are targeting, not you. And therefore, we're going to check whether you are a student, because we are going to look at the NASFAF database to see whether you are getting any kind of support from government in the form of a grant or a loan. So it means that you don't qualify. We are going to check against the veteran database to see whether you're getting any support from government. That means you don't qualify. We're going to check whether you get old age pension. We're also going to check against that database. That means you don't qualify. So those are the people who don't qualify. Further, people who have lost jobs in the formal sector. In other words, you were employed by a lodge somewhere, you had a job, you are on our tax database because you are paying tax, you don't qualify, because there's a special scheme that is dedicated for those that have lost jobs, especially in the tourism sector. And we will give you details as we go along. But today, we're talking about people who have lost income in the informal sector, who do not meet all those criteria that we have described. Don't receive old age pension, etc., etc., etc. As we are rolling out this facility or this program, and I'm going to explain how that is going to work, we want to caution people that this is not a program to be abused, because there will be consequences to those who intend to abuse this program. It's really meant for people who have lost their livelihoods, and therefore anybody who is going to attempt to abuse this program, there will be consequences. The police will do its work. We will also then, if you participate in this program, it also means that you are inviting us as a tax authority to start looking at your tax affairs, because we are now going to collect information. So if you have an income that is above the threshold for people to pay tax, and you don't pay tax currently, then by claiming this income, you are inviting us to look into your tax affairs. So we are collecting all this data, and therefore it mustn't be abused by those who are above the threshold, who are currently not paying tax. In fact, we want to encourage them to register for tax. Those who are above the threshold, they must register for tax, because they need to pay tax just like any other Namibian. So it mustn't be abused. So how will the scheme work? We have tried to simplify the system or the scheme so that money gets to the hands of the beneficiaries in a short space of time. So what do you do if you want to claim? So you nominate yourself. You nominate yourself by sending an SMS, a text message. And the number is very simple. It's 141222 to MTC. Now, once you send that number, you will get a reply which will ask you very few questions. What's your surname? What's your name? What's your ID number? Yeah, it will continue to prompt you. Which region are you from? Which bank do you prefer to receive your money from? And I'm going to tell you in a little while how you're going to receive your money. You continue ticking for a few seconds, and then you submit. That's it. Now, once that message is received, MTC will collect all this information, package it, and hand it over to MobiPay. MobiPay is the one who is going to validate against the database I have talked about. In other words, check whether your ID is authentic, it's not forged, and if it's forged, there will be consequences. Then check against the tax database. You are not, you're not cheating because you are employed, you are paying tax. Check against all the social grant databases. Yeah, so this is the work of MobiPay. Now, once MobiPay has checked all those and validated the data, there will be another layer of validation to be done by Deloitte and Touche, which is an auditing firm. And all these entities have availed their resources, their time free of charge. They are not charging government anything because we want this money to get to the beneficiary. Every cent must get to the beneficiary. Now, once that has been validated, it's distributed to commercial banks that are going to distribute the money. So that process from the starting point to the end point for you receiving your money takes about 72 hours. So roughly between 2 days and 3 days, you receive your money. How are you going to receive your money? You will receive your money by receiving a wallet. We all know the wallets. Some talk about Blue Wallet, e-wallet. So that's the kind of wallet that you're going to receive. It is depending on the bank which is going to distribute the money. If it's FNB, it will be an e-wallet. If it's Standard Bank, it will be a Blue Wallet. If it's Bank Vending, because those are the three banks that have got a wallet system. So that's how you're going to receive your money. You may be asking, if I don't have a cell phone, how am I going to receive my money? Obviously, this is a cell phone-based system. You can use your neighbor, you can use your friend who has got a cell phone and follow the same process. The only thing which matters in this case is your ID number. Because a cell phone, a single cell phone can receive many wallets, as many as possible. But that wallet is meant for a person with a specific wallet ID number. So your ID number is very, very important, and therefore you must protect it. Don't give it to anybody to go and claim on your behalf and you don't get a wallet. But of course, we are also trying to limit fraud. So if we see a cell phone that is going to send a lot of messages, we may start to investigate that cell phone number to see who is really behind this. So people who will attempt to abuse this, there will be consequences. So, and for now, we are limiting it to 10 SMSs. If it goes beyond 10, it's a red flag. It's for us to start looking at that number very closely. That's in a way of trying to reduce fraud so that people cannot steal other people's IDs and start claiming on behalf of other people. I think I answered your question on who those people who don't have cell phones. So when will the scheme start? You know that tomorrow is Good Friday. So tomorrow is Good Friday. It's going to be a Good Friday. So we are going to start tomorrow. So tomorrow we want to tell Namibians who qualify to claim from this program to start sending their SMSs to MTC, to the number that I have just provided. 14122, very easy number. So that by Tuesday, unfortunately, tomorrow is a public holiday and Monday is a public holiday, we'll have loved to have paid during the next few hours, but because of these public holidays, we are going to start paying on Tuesday only. So by Tuesday, the wallets will start flying. So people will start receiving their money by Tuesday. So we want to encourage Namibians who qualify to start sending their SMSs by tomorrow. The system will be open tomorrow. We will go out there with an information campaign to explain to Namibians the details of claiming, yeah, which is nothing else other than for what I have just explained to you. There will be more detailed information that will be provided through our radio stations. It will also be provided in different Namibian languages so that everybody will be on the same page. So that information campaign will also start. It's actually starting now. So what I'm doing now is part of the information campaign, but it will continue. People have time to claim until the 30th of April. After the 30th of April, we will close that window. It's no longer available. There may be a question as to, will we continue to receive money? Obviously, this is a scheme that is meant for the 21 days where there has been strict restriction on trading, on economic activities. So it's meant for those 21 days. People have lost their livelihood during this period. So it's a once-off payment. It's a once-off payment for this period. And therefore, we want to encourage Namibians to use this money sparingly and really buy the basic necessities that they need to sustain their livelihoods, because it's meant to support livelihoods. So don't waste this money, use it sparingly. It only comes once on a Good Friday. So don't waste it. Director of Ceremony, I believe this is the information that we wanted to give to fellow Namibians. As directed by the President, we must save lives, we must protect livelihoods, we must protect jobs. And we will continue to roll out these programs as we have announced on the 1st of April to meet these three goals and address these three goals as we were directed by the President. So MTC, I believe there will be people who have got queries and additional questions to ask. MTC is fully empowered to answer these questions. They know how the system works. So if you want to get clarification or you are not clear on specific things, you can call the call center. MTC will be at your service. They will be able to answer your calls. At this stage, I want to conclude and thank you, of course, Madam Director, for hosting us here, the Governor for making this facility available, all of you for being here, because you are going to transmit this message to the rest of the Namibians. And please tell them that only those who qualify must claim, not other people, not me and you, because we are gainfully employed. We also want, in the same breath, to thank our partners who have really made their services available free of charge. That is MTC, that is MobiPay, that is Deloitte, that is the three commercial banks that are going to participate in this program, which is FNB Namibia, Standard Bank Namibia, and Bank Windhoek. Those are the three banks that are going to roll out the wallets, and again, it's free of charge. This is really done in the spirit of patriotism, spirit of one Namibia, one nation, spirit of Harambee. Let's pull together. So we want to thank them for that. And we want to encourage all other Namibians to follow these good examples. Let me stop there. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Comrade Minister. You're more than welcome to join us here at the stage. The media practitioners in the room will have an opportunity now to actually ask their questions. I do believe there are hands already. We'll start with you, sir, and then you, sir. And lastly, for now, sir over there, to then just, perhaps just to not go a bit over time, perhaps maximum of 2 questions, if I may request that, to then divulge into what the Minister of Finance has actually delivered to us around the emergency package that we have now. But before that, sir, before asking, perhaps I could just ask you Comrade Minister, and we are joined by your ED, Ms. Erika Shafuda. Thank you very much for making the time, both of you, to join us here at the Communication Center. What challenges do you foresee in the rollout of this package? Of course, like you say, it's an emergency one. Issues around fraud you have highlighted a little bit, but are there perhaps any other challenges that you foresee going to tackle as you roll out this program?
Well, I guess in everything there will always be challenges, but challenges are also there to be addressed. I think if there are any challenges, we will have to address those challenges as we go along. One of the concerns that we have is for fellow Namibians who do not have cell phones. They may not have access to cell phones. We want to encourage them to work with those who have got cell phones, but if they don't know anybody trustworthy, and I want to underline this word, trustworthy, because you don't want to give your ID to anybody. It must be a trustworthy somebody. If they don't know anybody trustworthy who has got a cell phone, we want to encourage them to work with the regional councillors, the traditional authorities, the governors of the region, and we are working together with the governors of the region, first of all to disseminate this information, and secondly to help us identify those Namibians who will not be able to get their wallets through the programs or through the system that we have designed. So I think that will be a challenge going forward, but yeah, it's a challenge that we think is it's manageable, and we should be ready to manage that challenge.
Ms. Shafuda, do you want to add anything?
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister, and through my Minister. I think another challenge that we might be facing as a country is those Namibians who might be there, qualifying almost, but because they have lost their IDs, there might be an outcry. But like my minister had said, that it would be good if those ones who have really qualified, and maybe because they have just lost their IDs, if they could really go and approach the Ministry of Home Affairs as soon as possible. That's all what I wanted to add to what my minister had said.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shafuda. Yes, sir, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Steffen, Allgemeine Zeitung, Namibia Media Holdings. Honourable Minister, I was just wondering, for a number of times now, there have been suggestions why government is not really consulting with additional experts out of the private sector, and specifically on this score. There has not been any consultation with any of the civil society organizations, at least not that I'm aware of. So I was asked by colleagues from the Action Group, why would that be so? Is there any intention to get their expertise involved in the long term? Furthermore, seeing that this is not part of the normal budget for the next 4 months, or a continuation of that preliminary budget continuation, under what act has this assistance been promulgated? And then finally, from my side, we all hear about how each and everybody is being assisted. We hear about the various ideas that are on the table for banks to assist, but at the end of the day, it's only assistance. People have to pay back whatever they make use of. This is a grant. So my question is, this is obviously coming from our coffers. What is the government intending to do if there's a suggestion to decrease salaries on normal personnel by anything between 20 and 40%? What will be the decrease of our government employees who are out there and obviously not all working from home currently? It's no disrespect towards them, but we're all in this together.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Can we maybe take another one or something
okay.
like that? Yeah?
All right. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Chiri. I'm a freelance journalist. My first question to you, Honorable, is I wanted to specifically ask in relation to the stimulus package that you recently announced. I see there's not been much that has been done in terms of ring-fencing jobs in the agricultural sector, which is by far one of the largest employers in the country. I wanted to know whether this is still under consideration or it's something that you are still looking into. Then I think the second question is that I think it's in relation with now what we are witnessing next door to us in South Africa, where the rand is tumbling, and I think that also affects our currency. I think the primary reason there is that the rand is tumbling because there's massive outflows of capital, because investors are scared that their investments might not be secure enough, so they are taking their money elsewhere where they can ring fence their investments. Should this start happening here, what is the government's plan in terms of maybe stimulus package also to maintain this confidence that the money doesn't really go out or investors don't really panic? Then my other question is concerning the tourism sector. It's sector specific. I think when the minister announced when you announced last week also the stimulus package you also involved the tourism sector, but the bulk of the tourism employees are mostly the tour guides, and most of them work at a freelance basis. They are not attached to any organization. Were they also considered, I think, when you were giving this stimulus package? Then let me just check the last, and then the last but not least, the issue of people going to banks, I suppose, to get assistance, be it in loans to sustain themselves. What efforts have the government so far made to make sure that those who go to the banks, I think, to get assistance in terms of financial assistance, are getting these loans at zero interest? Because there will be a difficulty if somebody goes to get a loan now to sustain their livelihoods, maybe from the banks. If they are being given at interest, suppose the problem continues, how then do they sustain this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Look, I believe let's start addressing some of those questions, I think, because they are quite a mouthful, before we can continue with the rest.
Yeah.
Consultation, I think there was a question on consultation. Consultation is something that we greatly value. We have consulted with a number of private sector people. Unfortunately, we were working under a very significant time constraint. We could not consult all the Namibians that we want to consult. And remember, the goal is to save life. And if we delay it further and save livelihoods, and livelihood, of course, connected to life, if we delay it further, it may mean that we may start to lose lives. So we were trying to strike a balance between making sure that we get all the input of all the Namibians, but at the same time, speed is very important, so that we can roll out this program as soon as possible, so that we can achieve our goal, which is really to protect the livelihood of the Namibians. So we take your point there, that consultation is very, very critical in many of our programs. Where we have enough time, we will consult widely. Where we don't have enough time, unfortunately, we will not be in a position to consult everybody that we would like to have consulted. So if the nation and the public can just bear with us there, that speed has been very, very critical in this process to protect income and the livelihoods of Namibians. In terms of the Act, yes, you are right that we have not tabled the budget yet, because first of all, we are in a period where movements have been restricted. As you know, Parliament has been suspended for that purpose, to limit the spread of the disease. But we have found a way in terms of the law, the State Finance Act, to extend the budget, because the State Finance Act allows us to allow ministries to spend at least 1/3. So we are using that provision in the State Finance Act. And we are able to accommodate this particular program within the scope of that provision of the Act. We are making some arrangements to be able to have capacity to roll out other programs in terms of the State Finance Act. But this particular one we can actually accommodate already within the provisions of the State Finance Act. So that should not be a problem. We have talked about salaries in the sense that employees and employer who have difficulties of maintaining the current salary levels, they are at liberty to negotiate that. I think the guidance that was given by the Ministry of Labor is that to protect salaries from being cut haphazardly up to 20%, employers and employees are at liberty to do that. and every employer and employee is at liberty to do that. Government at the moment has not started that discussion with, has not taken that decision with to cut salaries. It's not something that is being under consideration. If it has to happen, it's something that has to be negotiated between the employers and employees, just like any other employer and employee. Any other employer and employees. On the agricultural sector, I think there was a question from my brother there who was asking about agriculture. We believe we have also taken agriculture into account. You may recall that part of the programs we have rolled out is to make money available to Agribank to support farmers, because that's the instrument that government has. We have made 200 million available for Agribank to go and borrow, but government will guarantee that those loans that will be issued under that program. So we are also looking after the people in the agricultural sector, and certainly that will also mitigate the impact of people losing jobs in the agricultural sector. The fact that it's raining, I think, is also good for agriculture. So I think agriculture is getting some support from different angles, including from the Almighty up there. So I think agriculture is being taken care of very well. There was a question on money leaving South Africa. That's why the rand is depreciating, is weakening. Yes, during times of crisis, money always leave what is called developing and emerging market. In South Africa is one of those countries that are classified as emerging markets. There's a concept of flying to quality, and the quality is always the US. It's not something abnormal, it's something we have seen before. When the situation stabilizes, some of that money will come back, and I believe the currency will stabilize again. What are we doing in Namibia to ensure that money does not leave? First of all, it's important that we manage the economy prudently. If we manage the economy prudently, there won't be any reasons to run away. And secondly, I also don't know whether it's really prudent to run away, because the whole world is actually in trouble. So even where you are running to, there will be problems, because COVID is everywhere. So we need to continue to manage the economy prudently, so that we keep our savings here, or the part of the savings that need to stay in Namibia will stay in Namibia. So that's really what is going to help us to keep the money here. Tourism, when you were concerned about whether we are only looking at those who are in the hospitality industry in the form of those who own lodges and hotels. In fact, it covers the whole broad. Anybody who has lost a job in tourism and aviation. In fact, I should add, aviation is also included there, including tour guides. They are also covered by the program that we are going to roll out within the next few days, on supporting those who have lost jobs or who could have been retrenched. Because in fact, what we are trying to do is to discourage companies to retrench people and keep them on their payroll. Government is going to support them, to pay them a subsidy so that they can pay their employees. And the idea is to encourage them to actually keep those employees instead of retrenching them. Remember, the second goal was to protect jobs. That's a scheme that is meant to protect jobs. And therefore, we want to encourage companies not to retrench people. Zero interest rate. Well, this is the scheme we are rolling out to help people who can borrow. Of course, when you go to the bank and take a loan, you need to have capacity to be able to pay back. So the bank will have to look at your cash flow, that, yeah, in the next 12 months or so, my cash flow will improve, and therefore I will be able to pay back. The banks have rolled out all kinds of schemes of payment holiday, interest holidays, but again, they will still have to look at your credit worthiness. The good thing is that government is coming to your rescue by guaranteeing those loans. And these loans are actually meant for those who pay tax, because it's linked to your tax payment. You are going to get 1/12, in other words, 1 month of your previous year's tax. If you have not paid tax, you will not qualify. So we want to encourage Namibians to be good citizens, pay tax, because when you pay tax, you are putting government in a position to be able to help you in a time of need. So I just wanted to make that emphasis. I think I have covered most of the questions. Yeah. I think my ED can add.
Anything, ma'am?
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Just to add, by indicating the numbers, because the first question when the Minister had responded to say that the Minister is empowered by the State Finance Act to withdraw funds from the State Revenue Fund, but there are specific issues that he has to observe. One of it is that the expense to which this money will be defrayed to should be of a special nature that cannot wait until the budget has been appropriated. And the Minister has indicated that it's an emergency. That's why it's an emergency income grant. And by talking to the numbers, we are estimating that 739,000 beneficiaries will benefit from this grant. And you multiply that, like the Minister had said, 750 per each beneficiary. That has given us an amount of 562 million Namibian dollars. And that amount fits within the amount that the Minister of Finance is empowered to withdraw as per Section 9 of the State Finance Act. I just wanted to add that one, Honourable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, E.D. I had another question. Oh yes, the gentleman is already standing, and then we'll do two more, then we end it there.
Good afternoon, Honourable Minister. My name is Stephen from Commerce and Industry Review magazine. I just want to find out, should the economic activity paralysis continue, do we have the financial means to extend the handout? And then, looking at the economy of Namibia, in the past 5 years, we have been on a downward trend. Can we continue with the lockdown of economic activities? I'm looking at, for example, what Russia has done. Just yesterday, they announced that they will continue with economic activity because they cannot shut down the factories. Their factories are going on. Economic activities are going on. They're saying they had a financial or economic activity problem even in the past, and they cannot continue to shut down economic activities. Can we, as Namibia, continue or afford the locking down of economic activity? And then maybe the last one is just a follow-up on what you said. We are looking at these unprecedented times in Namibia. What is happening has never happened before. Are you saying those who do not pay tax deserve to die of hunger? Thank you.
Can you repeat the last question, please? The last question on tax?
You are saying the scheme is only for those people who are paying tax. Okay. Are you also saying that those who don't pay tax deserve to die of hunger?
Oh. Okay, I think it's heard. Yes, sir. If we could just limit it to 2 questions, please. Thank you. The floor is yours.
All right. My first one is thank you for covering the informal sector. But I have a question. So the assumption is that the revenue that they are generating within the informal sector is not catered for. So you just generalize to give them 250, all of them. Because if you look at these informal traders, the broiler industry, which just started to pick up, the first produce, you know, getting a truck from Tsumeb to bring all the veggies here it's not that easy. So you just generalize. The assumption is that they are not generating revenue. So you only decided to give them 250, all of them.
Is that a question? Is the question that they generalized?
Yeah, I want him to tell us that that is the assumption they made to come up with the 250 to give to the informal traders and the service provider in that sector.
Or what informed the... Yeah. Okay. Okay, next question, sir, just to be specific.
Second one is...
While is it? Erasmus, so you're talking about 250, where you getting
get it from?
Okay, no, for the emergency grant, you said it's going to cater for those who are operating in the informal sector, isn't it?
Correct.
And now my assumption is that, so you are saying that you assume that these people are not they are not generating income. So your package, your intervention is not catering for what they usually make in a day or 2 days or in a month.
Okay, second question.
Then the second one is the inflationary pressure which is going to come from this income grant. I'm sure you do know that. But what are you doing to the supply side? You're already seeing that the lines at the supermarket are increasing. So now once you put in this 250 in the economy, Tuesday, those lines are going to increase to 400 in front of those shops. What are you going to do to the supply side? If the trucks are already struggling to come into Namibia to come from South Africa. Then the third one is, there is always this question, what is the rationale of closing the informal trade, especially the first produce, those who are in the broiler industry, the eggs guys? What is the rationale behind it? Because if you're allowing 400 people to queue up in front of a supermarket, but you're not allowing us to go buy our onions and tomatoes for those memes in front of our street, please, can you give us the rationale and the empirical data that you guys did, that these are the most people that are going to increase the spreading of this disease, or what? How did you guys arrive at this?
Thank you very much. I think the question is very clear. We're running out of time.
Yeah, there is an extension to that one. There is an extension to that one.
Okay, very short.
We are saying that this disease is about the immune system. And if you look at the purchasing power of the 250 that you're going to give in a week.
It's actually 750.
Okay, 750, the purchasing power of that. If you look at the pack of orange, it's around $60 now. And we are saying that this is an immune type of system. How are the people going to afford, if you restricted them to access the green things that can boost their immune system?
Thank you, sir. That's very clear. Mr. Frank, very short, please. We're running out of time.
I actually only have a follow-up question.
Okay.
If we say that we've got 739,000 people who will benefit from this, that's about 1/3 of our population, but we always said that about 1/3 of our possible working population is possibly 1/3 is unemployed. How do you arrive at this 739,000, which seems a lot higher now?
Thank you.
Very good. Let's see whether we can provide some answers to these questions. And my ED will come in to assist me there. Well, do we have the financial means? I think my friend there, he likes asking me questions all the time when we meet. Do we have financial means to shut down the economy forever? Obviously, the answer is no. We cannot shut down the economy forever. We are all going to starve, because we can only have some livelihood if we do some work and generate some income. And in fact, if we generate or produce some products that we sell to the rest of the world, because most of the food that we eat comes from outside, the medicines that we use come from outside. We need foreign exchange to buy those stuff. So definitely we cannot close the economy forever. I don't think the intention, not that I don't think, I believe the intention is not to shut down the economy forever. There was a specific reason why we were advised by our health practitioners why we have to lock down the economy or the country for a certain period of time, and that certain period of time was defined. And the specific reason for that was to limit the speed of transmission. Because if we don't limit the speed of transmission, it means many Namibians are going to be infected by COVID-19. And of course, if many Namibians are infected, we will be in trouble, because it means you have to treat so many people, care for so many people, and your health system will be overwhelmed. So I think that's really the crux of the matter. First of all, you want to limit the transmission. That's why you are restricting movements. Secondly, you also want to buy some time. You want to get yourself ready so that your health facilities are able to cope with those who may need health care in the future. So that's really the reason. So the purpose is not really to shut down the economy forever. It's to shut down the economy for a certain period of time while you are curbing the transmission of the disease, and also while you're getting yourself ready to have capacity to provide the necessary care that you need to provide to your people. So I think we need to understand that from that context. And of course, as we make progress in reducing the rate of transmission, and as we make progress in making the country ready to open up and to provide the necessary care that it needs to provide, it also means that we need to start opening up the economy, because we need the economy to function. So you have to have these two balances. On one side, you want to limit the transmission. On the other side, you also need to start thinking about how do I keep the economy going without increasing the risk of transmission. So after or before 21 days are over, we will have to come back to the drawing board and ask ourselves a question. Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? And our health practitioners will help us to answer that question. Should we stop here and start opening up? That's a question we have to answer. If we have to open up, of course, it won't be business as usual, because COVID will be with us for a considerable period of time. How are we going to behave? Those are the questions that we have to start asking ourselves. But it means in one way or another we have to start opening up. The question is, if we open up, how are we going to make sure that we reduce the risk of transmission while we still have some economic activities are continuing? So I think I hope I have put this question in context, why we cannot continue to shut down the economy forever, and why there was also a specific reason why we had to curtail economic activities. Yes. On the tax issue, I think there is a misunderstanding there. I don't think I don't know. I don't think maybe I didn't make it clear on the tax issue. The issue is that it's not only the people who are benefiting from the EIG, which is the income, the emergency income grant. It's not those people who pay tax. If you pay tax, in fact, you don't qualify because you are formally employed. Yeah, we need to make it clear there. So it's targeting people who are in the informal sector, and generally, those people don't pay tax because they fall below the tax threshold, which is 50,000 Namibian dollar a year. There may be those in the informal sector who are above the tax threshold. They make more money in the informal sector, but they have not registered for tax. Those are the ones that should come and register for tax, because they should pay tax just like any other Namibian is paying tax, irrespective of what you are doing. If you earn more than 50,000 a year, you have to pay tax, because tax is what is keeping us going, is what is keeping the country going. It's what is buying medicines, it's what is maintaining our roads, it's what is buying textbooks for our children. So, and therefore, every Namibian who qualifies to pay tax is duty-bound to pay tax, irrespective of what you do. So, when I talked about if you ought to have paid tax but you have not paid tax, you will not qualify for the loans that commercial banks are going to give that are guaranteed by government. Because if you are not behaving, why should government help you? Because you are not a good citizen. Government is only going to help the good citizens. So I hope we made it clear there. The income grant is for those who are in informal sector, who are below the tax threshold, and therefore they are not required by law. They are not required to pay tax. Okay, I hope I made it clear there.
All right. Edie, perhaps just to, if you have any responses. Oh, there's still more. Yeah.
I think there was the issue of trucks and things like that. I think the supply, Erasmus wanted to hear about the supply side. I believe, in general, what I want to say here is that we are in a state of emergency situation. We all understand the gravity of this situation, that if we don't contain the disease, it's going to have severe, severe consequences. Now, when you are in a state of emergency, there will be some discomfort. It's not business as usual. There will be some discomfort. If you go to a shop, you will have to stand in the long queue. Why? Because we want to reduce the risk of transmission. And therefore, we cannot allow to have too many people in one space. Social distancing is very critical to our success in winning this battle of fighting COVID. So we need to understand that it's important that we maintain good hygiene practices, good social distances, so that we limit. On the issue of informal markets, again, the fear was that how do we manage it in such a way that there's enough social distancing? It's not that we have something against informal markets. We are trying to figure out what's the best way of allowing informal markets to continue without increasing the risk of transmission. As we go along, we will start to develop some of these protocols. Informal market is one of them that we are looking at already. How do we manage it in such a way? How do we allow it to continue in such a way that the risk of transmission is limited? Other sectors like mining, for instance, fishing, we are also doing the same things. You may know that even mining was told to stop operation. Fishing equally was stopped to operate. But we are also reviewing these things as we go along. And remember, we are in a crisis. There is no time to look at all the information that you need. You adjust as you go along. And that's what we are doing. I think I have answered the question. And maybe just to Erastus, the amount is not it's 250, it's 750 per person. So what's the thing behind that? The thing behind that, of course, this will not give you enough money to buy the juice that you want to buy, but it should help you to buy the basic needs, basic food stuff that you need to sustain your livelihood. It's a time of emergency. We don't want any Namibian to die because we're trying to fight COVID-19. We want Namibians to be able to survive this, so that when we are at the end of this curve, we have a country that has got vibrant people, the country that is able to restart again and grow the economy and support the nation. That's the idea.
Thank you very much, Comrade Minister. Edie, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. My boss has said everything to what has been asked, but I wanted to attempt to one question that my minister maybe did not catch it very well. That is when one of the questions we posed, that why is it that the emergency income grant is not equated to the income lost by the beneficiary? I think with my minister's permission, and he's going to help me with this one, for us, we are also saying there are 3 objectives that we need to meet. And these 3 objectives, all of them have to be met through financial resources, if I can put it that way. So the principle of affordability comes into equation. So as the equity principle. I think with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I just need to add, I think now that Maidi spoke, I think, I remember, I think there was an issue. How did we come to 750? First of all, before 750, let me explain the 750. 750 per person that people are going to get. How was that determined? The study that was done by the Namibia Statistics Office earlier on determined that for a person to be able to have some kind of livelihoods, minimum livelihoods that the person needs, it's about 250 Namibian dollar per month. If you fall below that level, you fall below the poverty level. If you are above that level, then at least you should be able to survive. So if you multiply 250 per week, and that's per week, 250 per week, we are in a 3-week period of a lockdown, you will come to 750. That's how that formula was used. So it was based on that formula. Poverty line, 250 per week, 3 weeks, 750. Let me come to your question today on 700. 700, how did we arrive at that figure? 750. So let's 750. Yeah, that's a question I'm about to address now. So 750,000. Obviously, that's an estimate. We don't know, what is the accurate number, but how we arrive at that number is as follows. If you look at the profile of the population, those who are below 18, it's about 43% of the population, below 18. If those who are above 60%, 60 and above, it's about 4% of the population. So you do your maths there, then you come to about 750,000. So that's how that number was determined.
Thank you very much, Minister. That's all the time we had today as we launched the emergency income grant as part of the stimulus package for COVID-19 in Namibia. We hope that the answers are sufficient, but if not, the Ministry of Finance is available to respond to some of those questions on the modalities of getting your $750. The partners such as MTC are more than welcome to also explain those modalities so to ensure every Namibian gets through this difficult time of COVID-19 without compromising any quality of life. That's all the time we had today. Thank you very much for joining us. Join us again tomorrow morning as we further the discussion around the different sectoral approaches and responses to COVID-19 in Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you.
There will always be challenges, but challenges are also there to be addressed. I think if there are any challenges, we will have to address those challenges as we go along. One of the concerns that we have is for fellow Namibians who do not have cell phones. They may not have access to cell phones. We want to encourage them to work with those who have got cell phones, but if they don't know anybody trustworthy, and I want to underline this word, trustworthy, because you don't want to give your money leaving South Africa. That's why the rand is depreciating, is weakening, yes. During times of crisis, money always leave what is called developing and developing an emerging market. In South Africa is one of those countries that are classified as emerging markets. There's a concept of flying to quality, and the quality is always the US. It's not something abnormal, it's something we have seen before. When the situation stabilizes, some of that money will come back, and I believe the currency will stabilize again. What are we doing in Namibia to ensure that money does not leave? First of all, it's important that we manage the economy prudently. If we manage the economy prudently, there won't be any reasons to run away. And secondly, I also don't know whether it's really prudent to run away, because the whole world is actually in trouble. So even where you are running to, there will be problems. Because we make progress in reducing the rate of transmission, and as we make progress in making the country ready to open up and to provide the necessary care that it needs to provide, it also means that we need to start opening up the economy, because we need the economy to function. So you have to have these two balances. On one side, you want to limit the transmission. On the other side, you also need to start thinking about how do I keep the economy going without increasing the risk of transmission. So after or before 21 days are over, we will have to come back to the drawing board and ask ourselves a question. Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? And our health practitioners will help us to answer that question. Should we stop here and start opening up? That's a question we have to answer. If we have to open up, of course, it won't be business as usual, because COVID will be with us for a considerable period of time. How are we going to behave? Those are the questions that we have to start asking ourselves. But it means in one way or another we have to start opening up. The answer,
from the horse's mouth. Minister Shimi, the Minister of Finance, has said exactly what we all expected him to say in terms of once again confirming that this grant is not for everybody to collect, it is for the informal sector, those people who have no other alternative and who have been directly hit by this COVID virus in terms of not having any possibility of earning an income or just making ends meet. So as far as the rest of the people are concerned, if you are registered as a taxpayer, you need to accept that there are other avenues, whether it's through Agribank, whether it's through commercial banks or whatever bank you will approach. Fact is they judge about 739,000 people to be benefiting from this grant. So let's see where it is. The minister assured me that this whole grant is within his authority and jurisdiction. So with that, we come to the end of this broadcast. Thank you very much for viewing, and I hope you have a happy Easter.